That end? Grumpy old man on the end there, you ready?
You got it.
Okay. Congratulations, Steve. Okay, let's stand for the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
In conformance with the Open Public Meeting Law, Public Law 1975, Chapter 231, adequate notice of this meeting, setting forth the time, date, place, and purpose of this regular meeting through notice posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building, mailed to all who requested and paid for same, and published in the Suburban Trend. Roll call, please.
Mayor Sarah.
Here.
Council President Wright. Here. Councilman Bay.
Here.
Councilman DeLine.
Here.
Councilman Giaconetti.
Here.
Councilwoman Colazuri.
Here.
Councilman Bennett.
Here.
With us this evening is our Borough Attorney Joseph Ragno and our Borough Administrator Kevin Boyd.
Okay, thank you. Under my presentations and updates, I just want to thank all the people that ran for public office in the last week. We have unofficial results with Councilman Eldori, President Riker, and Councilman DeLine as winners, but it's unofficial. It is not out there yet. They're still outstanding. But I'd like to thank both sides for doing a pretty good campaign, a pretty clean campaign. With that being said, the reason I brought it up is the fact that, you know, Pompton Lakes is Pompton Lakes. We move past the election. We always work as a team when we're doing things. We work on both sides of the aisle. We work on both sides of the party. Unfortunately, and probably I shouldn't, I read Facebook. You know, we want to come back as a community. So it's an election. We move on, we move forward from the election, and we do what we've always done in Pompton Lakes, which is make it a better place to live and a good place to raise our families. I thank everyone who volunteers and puts the time in, comes from both sides of the aisle, both groups. So let's just keep that in mind as we're moving forward, and a little patience on Facebook would probably go a long way with everybody who's talking at this point. Okay, that is my speech. Can I have a motion to open the meeting for public comments? Council President Riker, Councilman Giaconetti, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Anyone from the public like to address? Please step up. Name and address, please. You are first. You get to go first.
Hi, my name is Darlene Tamine, and I've been a resident of Pompton Lake since 1991.
Okay.
And I am an active participant. I jog, I hike, I ride, I bicycle all around the town. And I have a question. Who is responsible for coordinating town-wide street cleanup? And that includes the bridges, that includes the whole town itself.
So that's a very difficult question, because
I know.
the county...
It's an easy question, it's difficult to answer.
Yeah, the county owns a lot of the bridges and a lot of the roads in town. So the major thoroughfares like Colfax, some of Colfax, Wanacue Avenue, Lakeside, parts of Lakeside are owned by the county. They're supposed to be responsible for keeping that clean. Most of the residential roads where people are living with their homes, we own. And then there's some overlapping areas. We have a street sweeper agreement. It's not a very active street sweeper agreement, but it occasionally shows up, I will tell you that.
Yes.
And it's an old machine at best. But if you're asking about a certain concern about a certain area, the best thing I can tell you is just give a call to our DPW and say, hey, look, it seems a little messy over here, or something's going on, please take a look at it, or any of the council people here, and they'll get the message over to them.
Okay, because every year at this time, I usually spend a couple hours of my day calling up the DPW. One of my main concerns is the leaves, because when you walk and you run, it becomes very slippery and the bridges are just awful. So I get into this match between the DPW and the county.
It's unfortunate.
And as a concerned resident, you know, you see the kids running in the summertime, in the morning they start training. I run in the morning, it's wet, it's slippery. So for me, it's a segue to what you just said. As Pompton Lakes, we have this beautiful community and this beautiful backdrop, and you run through Riverdale and the streets are spotless, and as you go through Pompton Lakes, they're just very messy.
Riverdale has much less streets.
Yeah, I know. I know.
So I will address it in two ways. I'm going to reach out to our administrator and have him reach out to the county.
Please.
To come and make sure they do their leaf removal on the county roads. And I could also reach out to our DPW supervisor, and while they're out doing our own properties, if they see a walkway or an area that's heavily trafficked, just go over there and blow over the area if they can. Now we know the leaves are gonna come back, but, they're not there every day, so they're not doing that. Residentially, if there's problems on sidewalks, that's the homeowner's responsibility.
Exactly.
And if that's an issue, then our inspectors would go there, but we give them a time frame. If it's end of December and there's still leaves sitting there, okay, there's gonna be an issue. But in November, there's not gonna be a real issue if they still have leaves sitting there.
Absolutely. And also, too, a suggestion I have, since we do have such a beautiful backdrop and a beautiful environment, we should promote, bringing marathons and bike-a-thons and stuff through the town to promote business through the town and stuff like that, because especially now we have that new path and everything, so.
Well, Councilman Devine is very active in trying to bring a biking lane through the town, right? Or
Not a biking lane.
Well, what do you call it?
We're doing a complete streets plan that's going to be completed probably at the end of this month, for exactly the kind of things that you enjoy doing.
Yeah.
The idea of doing, we have obviously the Pompton Day 5K that's run through our Recreation Commission. Having more events like that would be great. It's just a matter of people's volunteer time and things like that. So if you would definitely, be interested in helping out, we can certainly,
Do you
have that
run
discussion.
in our Pompton Day run?
I go to it, I don't run to
You
it.
don't run
And, to be honest with you, I don't run it only for the reason that the route itself is not a very good one, so.
It's not certified.
Yeah, the surface is just, they don't really, and I think about that every year because, Summit Avenue is such a beautiful walk, and we have hills, and it's just a beautiful environment, and it's just a shame when you run and you hike and you bike, and you're nervous about slipping or falling, and, it's a beautiful town, so that's my only concern.
Okay,
I have another question. I didn't catch whether it's Marlene or Darlene.
Darling.
Darlene.
yeah, and we'll take those in, again, I think what Councilman Devine hit it on the head. We're a big volunteer group, but it does take time to put these events on.
Yeah.
And you need people who want to do those events. I don't think as a council or as a mayor here, we would say no to any of those events if someone
Right.
wants to bring them to us, but they just have to bring them forward, that's all.
One of the other things we could check into, because I don't remember us doing that, is we are heading down to what's called the League of Municipalities, which is where the governing bodies, the mayors and governing bodies of all the municipalities in the state meet. We have a lot of conferences, a lot of courses. There is a program, is it called the Mayor's Fitness?
Mayor's Fitness, but it's different. Yeah,
It's different, okay.
Mayor's
Because I was-
Wellness.
And we're part of that, actually.
It's just to see whether if we hear other communities have some experience with trying to
Promote.
promote
Right.
what you're asking.
Right. You see towns like Ridgewood and stuff like that, and, the roads are just, very clean. But thank you for your time, I
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Anyone else from the public like to address? Mr. Ed?
Yeah, Randy Henton, 443 Montclair Avenue. Along the lines of what Darlene was talking about, in the winter, don't we have in our ordinance, like 24 hours, you have to have your sidewalks?
Yes, we do.
That's
Yes,
snow.
we do.
That's snow, not leaves.
That's what's in the winter, yes.
Snow, yes, but
Yes.
we're a little laxed on the 24 hours, maybe we'll do 48.
Yeah.
We get a warning, and then if you don't go back, we'll give them another warning, and then if they don't do it, they get a fine.
Correct. But I mean, with the county, sometimes they could go a week
Yes, they
before they do the bridges. Is there anything that,
So with the county, yes, that, it's a fight with the county to get them to do what the maintenance they're supposed to do on a routine basis in the towns, but Kevin can reach out and make those calls, and I happen to live by one of these cross bridges, and most of the residents go out and shovel it before the county gets there, I can tell you.
yeah, but I know the ones on Hamburg Took by Wilderness Park, a lot of times they take a week, 10 days
Yes,
before they come out.
that is correct, yes.
And, that's an
So we just gotta stay on top of the county, that's all.
I mean, we can't do it ourselves and then bill the county back,
No,
or,
it doesn't work that way.
no?
The county property, it'd be trespassing.
I guess when the borough attorney shakes his head, that means it can't be done.
I don't even have to look at the borough attorney, I'm shaking.
You both were. Also, I just want to reiterate what you had said. Yes, the results are not in yet. And when the results do come in, we're all one town, and we all work together. The committees and commissions all work for one purpose, and that's our town. So I just want to reiterate what you said.
That is correct.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public like to address? Seeing no one, can I have a motion to close the public session? So moved. Councilman Devine, was that Councilman Devine? Oh, I'm sorry, Councilman Bennett and Councilman Devine. Approval of minutes, motion to approve the following minutes. Regular meeting minutes of October 24th, 2018. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Council President Riker?
Second.
Councilman Bennett, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Bills and claims, motion to approve the following bill list as stated below.
So moved.
Councilman Bay? Second?
Second.
Councilman Bennett, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Petitions, we have none. Consent agenda whenever you're ready, Liz.
The agenda.
Anybody?
One second. Can we have, which one is it? Number 6, 18-194.
Okay.
That's it.
Anybody else? That seems like it.
Whereas the mayor and council of the Borough of Pompton Lakes has reviewed the consent agenda consisting of various proposed resolutions, whereas the mayor and council of the Borough of Pompton Lakes does desire to remove resolutions for individual action from that agenda, now therefore be it resolved, the following resolutions on the consent agenda are hereby approved. Resolution 18-189 through 18-197, with the removal of 18-194.
Okay, thank you. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Councilman Devine.
Second.
Councilman Giacometto. All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Separate action.
Resolution 18-194, authorizing the contract for the acquisition of goods or services pursuant to state statute with AM Consultants.
Okay, can I have a motion?
So moved.
Councilman Giacometto, can I have a second?
Second.
Councilman Bay? Administrator would like to...
This is an agreement with AM Consultants. They're going to provide us with fixed asset inventory. For many, many years, we have not met that requirement of the audit, and DCA is no longer happy with us. So
I just want to know what a fixed asset inventory is.
anything about $5,000 we tagged and categorized.
So something with a value of over $5,000. Okay.
And when they
The
do the
report
inventory,
provides us and provides the auditor and DCA.
when they do the inventory, is it market value or replacement value? What do they have?
Well, exactly, like a vehicle will be whatever you pay for the vehicle, so it's $21,000. They'll have an asset of 21 grand. They'll put it down, it's going to be as purchased. Over years, it's going to depreciate, but that's not going to make a difference. They just want to know that you tagged everything as a value above $5,000, which is the threshold.
And what is it used for? Just to say what we paid for it,
Well,
and what
this
it's
is,
currently
because
worth.
it's part of your assets and liabilities, and now it says you have, $1.2 million of assets, whether it be buildings or vehicles or what have you. It's to give us an idea of what, just like we do every year for sick time. The state requires a total of sick time now as your sick liability. How many $1,000 you have in sick liability out there that might be, required by the taxpayer to pay that back. It's the same thing. So let the state know how much value of assets, what we own, what are tangible assets that are owned by a town, whether it be buildings or vehicles or anything above $5,000.
We good?
Yes.
Okay. Can I have a...
I'm going to do a roll
roll
call.
call? Yes.
Councilwoman Polidori.
Yes.
Councilwoman Riker.
Yes.
Councilman Bennett.
Yes.
Councilman Bay.
Yes.
Councilman Dewan.
Yes.
Councilman Giacometto.
Yes. Separate action, whenever you're ready.
There are
Oh, there aren't, yeah, no, I'm sorry, first reading.
introduction of ordinances. This ordinances will be for second reading and final adoption on November 28th. Ordinance 18-26, an ordinance vacating a public right-of-way in Block 105 as set forth in the vacation plan drafted by Miroslav Vihak, dated October 16th, project number FS 16134, attached hereto and made a part hereof. It's in the Hunter Place area.
Motion, go ahead.
There's a right-of-way that extends from the cul-de-sac where the senior citizen housing project is and goes to the river. It has been the recommendation of both the engineer and the planner that that right-of-way be vacated and simply brought back to the ownership of which will end up being with the senior citizen housing, since they have the land contiguous on both sides of the right-of-way. So This will vacate the right-of-way, except for the rights of utilities, which always stay in place, and allow the ownership to go back to the senior citizen housing complex.
Right, and this was a right-of-way put in place years ago, correct?
1980s, maybe even before that, I think.
Right. Okay. Any discussion on that? Nope. Okay. Motion to approve ordinance 1826 for introduction. Councilman Begg?
Second.
Council President Riker? Roll call, please.
Councilwoman Pompton.
Yes.
Councilwoman Ryder. Yes. Councilman Bennett.
Yes.
Councilman Bay.
Yes.
Councilman Deline.
Yes.
Councilman Giacomo.
Yes.
Okay, ordinance 1823.
Okay, for second reading and final adoption, all of these ordinances have been advertised and posted on the municipal bulletin board. Ordinance 18-23, an ordinance amending Section 190-83A and 190-84A, adding Block 6300, Lot 711, Lennox Avenue to the downtown redevelopment area in the DRA1 zone.
You want me to explain? The purpose of this ordinance, you had previously approved Block 6300, Lot 7, which is 11 Lennox Avenue, for inclusion in a redevelopment area. What this ordinance does is it adds that block and lot to certain bulk zoning provisions so that it's in compliance with the remainder of the land use provisions of our code.
Okay. Motion to open the meeting for public comments on ordinance 18-23.
So moved.
Councilman Devine, Council President Riker? All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Anyone like to address just this ordinance? Seeing no one, can I have a motion to close the meeting for public comments on ordinance 18-23?
So moved.
Councilman Devine?
Second.
Councilman Paladori? All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion to approve ordinance 18-23 for final adoption. Councilman Begg?
Second.
Councilman Bennett? Roll call, please.
Councilwoman Poladori.
Yes.
Councilwoman Ryder.
Yes.
Councilman Bennett.
Yes.
Councilman Bay.
Yes.
Councilman Deline.
Yes.
Councilman Giacomo.
Yes.
Ordinance 18-24, an ordinance replacing Borough Administrative Code Section 7-7.1 through 7-710.
I'm sure a very exciting explanation is looking forward from you on this.
This one's probably the least exciting of them. Actually, at the request of the police department, this ordinance will replace the current provisions with new provisions for traffic controls when there's street and highway construction and maintenance.
Okay, motion to open the meeting for public comments on ordinance 18-24.
So moved.
Councilman Begg.
Second.
Councilman Paladori. All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Anyone from the public like to address just this ordinance, 18... Oh, I'm sorry, did I skip that?
Is this it?
Yeah, second
Okay,
reading.
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, we're second reading.
Sorry, yeah.
Well, anyone like to address just this ordinance? Seeing no one, motion to close the meeting for public comments on ordinance 18-24.
So moved.
Councilman Deline.
Second.
Council President Riker. All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion to approve ordinance 18-24 for final adoption.
So moved.
Councilman Giacomo.
Second.
Council President Riker, roll call, please.
Councilwoman Poladori.
Yes.
Councilwoman Ryder.
Yes.
Councilman Bennett.
Yes.
Councilman Bay.
Yes.
Councilman Deline.
Yes.
Councilman Giacomo.
Yes.
Ordinance 18-25, an ordinance amending Administrative Code 7-13H with respect to metered parking on Fridays.
This ordinance revises the administrative code with respect to metered parking on Friday evenings only, changing the time from, for which the meter has to be fed from 9 p.m. to 6 p.m., reducing it by 3 hours.
Right, and this falls in line with the rest of our days throughout the week, so everything is consistent going forward. Motion to open the meeting for public comments on ordinance 18-25.
So.
Wow. Councilman Bennett, Councilman Deline. All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Anyone like to address just this ordinance? Seeing no one, can I have a motion to close the public session on ordinance 18-25?
So moved.
Councilman Deline,
Second.
Councilwoman Paladori, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion to approve ordinance 18-25 for final adoption.
So moved.
Councilman Begg, Council President Riker, roll call, please.
Councilwoman Polidori.
Yes.
Councilman Riker.
Yes.
Councilman Bennett.
Yes.
Councilman Day.
Yes.
Councilman Dewan.
Yes.
Councilman Giacometti.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Okay, under my report, we just came from, most of us here came from, and people in the audience came from the Veterans ceremony we had. It's always nice to see support from our town out for our veterans. To me, it's a big deal. You know, when people come take time out of their day, especially in busy schedules, to come and support whatever cause we had. This time it was veterans and a good cause. They come out and they support our town. So that's what makes Pompton Lakes what it is. I thank Liz for helping us put it together. I thank everybody who was there, the veterans especially, for doing what they do. And I think that the best feeling I got out of it was seeing all the kids afterwards go up and shake the hands of the veterans as they came in or were leaving. You know, and at least put a connection to what's going on there. They're young kids, but at least they have a connection to what's going on there. So thank you for that. I attended the Pompton Lakes Education Foundation dinner, where I think they raised $11,000 in that one dinner for programs run at our school. It's run by a nonprofit group that Diane Gillock runs. It's a pretty active group. You know, they've raised a lot of money in the last 5 years to help our schools and what they need. So if you're a teacher, you can ask for a mini grant. They can say yes to that mini grant and then provide you what they need. So I thank her for putting that on. I thank everybody who supports that foundation. It was a great foundation. Talking about the DPW a little bit, Mr. Hinton brought it up. It is getting close to winter time. Remember, your cars need to get off the streets when we're going to snow. It's a 24-hour window there, or longer if need be. So cars have to be off the streets. There will be no first or second tries there. Your car will be ticketed if it's snowing and you did not move it off the seat. This is your friendly reminder to remove your car off the street at that point. At the same time, the shoveling, let's stay on top of our shoveling of our sidewalks. You know, for all our neighbors that are walking on those sidewalks, it is dangerous if they're not shoveled. So let's try to stay on top of that. Also, I've been asked by the DPW to bring up the fact that we had the switching of our garbage was this week. So there will be garbage pickup north on this Friday and no leave pickup this Friday. So the north does get a garbage pickup. It gets a little dicey in this month because of the holidays. So there will be a garbage pickup in north. Also, they asked me to remind everyone, there are specific garbage cans you should be using in sizes. They try to accommodate best they can, but if you have a very large garbage can filled to the top with garbage, they might leave it. I do get calls from residents upset that their garbage wasn't picked up. The garbage probably wasn't picked up for two reasons. It either contained recycling or it was too large. So, you know, just give a call over to DPW. There'll be a sticker on your bag. Ask them what happened. They'll explain it to you, and hopefully you can fix that problem. There are no exceptions to these garbage cans. I understand some residents bought them and they paid money for them, but it is what it is. The requirement, I think, is 55 gallon, if I'm correct. Does anybody know? Yeah, so, you know.
I thought it was less than that.
I thought it was 35, maybe, yeah. 35.
Yeah, 35, yeah.
So I know the issue we're having is these big landscape barrels, these big green ones. They are not official garbage cans, and they will leave them if there's garbage. Unfortunately, that is what it is, and it's, you know, that's the part of the process that we have down there. I performed 2 weddings. Went to 2 Eagle Scout ceremonies. We have a very active Boy Scout troop that has a lot of Eagle Scouts, which is a great thing to see. And I think that's it. Council President Riker. Oh, I'm sorry, one more thing. The rec department gave me a list of upcoming events. Toys for Tots Train, December 1st. Holiday House Tour, December 1st from 2 to 4. There'll be certain houses that are letting residents come in and see how they're decorated. That's the first time we're doing that.
That's for the library.
I'm sorry, the Friends of, well, it's on the rec list. Holiday Stroll is December 1st. Rain date, December 8th. Breakfast with Santa is December 8th. There's 2 seatings, 8:30 and 10:30. Oh, the Easter egg hunt's pushing it a little bit, so we don't have to talk about that. Okay. Council President Riker.
Thank you, Mayor. Just quick congratulations to both Diane Gillock on a fabulous event the other night, and the thing that made it so fabulous is all the money that she raised. And we had a very moving veteran ceremony, which the mayor told you about. In terms of events, the only thing I'd like to add honored Ed Merrill at our last meeting. He was given a plaque. There were many accolades spoken about him. And tomorrow evening, they are doing a dinner over at Max. If anyone is interested and they haven't signed up, I would reach out to Maria Kent and Julie Gomses to see whether there is still space. I'd like to take the rest of my time on more serious notes. There are two things that have gone on much more globally that have impacted me and impacted others in our community, quite frankly, that I never thought I'd be talking about from this dais. The first of which is Squirrel Hill. We did not have a moment of silence for the 11 that were killed in Squirrel Hill, but I don't want them to be forgotten. I'm sure everyone in the community knows that was the most heinous attack on a Jewish prayer institution in terms of a temple that the United States has ever experienced. What many of you may not know is my daughter lives in Squirrel Hill, and she's a member of that congregation. When I am not here in northern New Jersey for the Jewish holidays, I am in that shul. That really touched me. It scared me. It has changed my daughter's reality. My grandchildren go into nursery school now with armed guards. For the last few weeks, they've had FBI agents leading them into their rooms. And I'm sharing it with everyone because, unfortunately, it can happen here. And I think we need, as a community, we need to, in some manner, shape, or form, as we're reorganizing what our responsibilities and what we're going to do and what our priorities are going to be, I think we need to give some serious thought to our security. And I also think we need to revisit the notion of civility and being more respectful of others. Which brings me to a second point. I, during the day, as many of us up here, do other things. This is not by any means our full-time gig. I teach law in the business program at William Patterson University. I've been doing it for 20 years. The curriculum that we follow, William Patterson, years ago was lucky enough to get a big grant, and the founder of the school, is now called the Katsako School of Business. And one of the things he wanted to do is he wanted to set up a Wharton-style school in the local university, and I happen to be a product of the Wharton School, and I've been teaching the business law curriculum there for the last 20 years. There's different courses that I teach. Primarily, I teach, there are different tracks, whether you're taking the CPA exam or whether you're a business major. But there is something in the last 5-6 years that I've been teaching, and I never thought it would really hit home here. And that's something called Citizens United versus FEC. Citizens United versus FEC, some of you may be familiar with it. It's a landmark case that the U.S. Supreme Court handed down in 2010. It was a very controversial case. It was a 5-4 decision. The majority decision was written by Justice Kennedy. The dissenting opinion was written by Justice Stevens. Some of the justices who participated in that decision, obviously, in 2010, are no longer on the court. But that decision is the law of the land. And it's a First Amendment rights decision. And it's a First Amendment rights decision that deals very much specifically with corporate political speech. And basically what it did is it prevented any sort of limits being placed on independent political expenditures by corporations. What does that mean? What it means is that the PACs, political action committees, post-2010, were allowed to spend unlimited funds to advance their own agendas and in support of their candidates or certain things they believe in. I taught this case, like I said, probably since 2011. It was very much considered controversial, very much considered a landmark, even from its inception. What it has done, it has, in fact, created the super PACs. And these super PACs has allowed this unlimited contributions from individuals, corporations, and unions. And why am I saying this here tonight? I'm saying this because I went to pick up the newspaper. When I say the newspaper, I just went to get the local paper. I don't normally get the local paper delivered, but I really wanted to see how yesterday's events were covered. And the Star Ledger says, Menendez wins nasty election fight. And the other one says, $127 million later. Okay. Fortunately or unfortunately, we were the recipients of millions and millions of dollars. I don't mean we here. I mean the New Jersey residents. And what's happened is that we had billionaires from all over the country. They could have been very liberal, very conservative, supporting all different agendas. But they weren't people from here. They were billionaires who were funding these super PACs. Some were from Texas, some were from Silicon Valley. But the bulk of the money that came into New Jersey was from somewhere else. And it was people with their own individual agendas that were trying to influence our elections. And this year we had a senatorial election. We had a very hardly fought congressional election, and then we had all our local stuff. And if you read these articles, you can obviously read them online, the Star Ledger or the Record, they go into great detail in terms of which PACs and which money and how much, and this was 6.7 million and this was 8 million, and how this was the most expensive campaign we've ever had in New Jersey. And why am I talking about it? I'm talking about it because, unfortunately, it impacted us here. That these PACs gave enough money that day in and day out, it didn't matter what we were watching, what station we were watching, what listening to, what channel we were watching. It didn't matter. But we were recipients of some really ugly ads on all sides. And what happened is this ugliness didn't stop at that level. And the ugliness did come into our local campaigns. Councilman Baig is the elder statesman up here. The mayor is our titular head. Councilman Baig functions, has tremendous respect, and comports himself beautifully. The mayor is very, very accessible, and he's a wonderful leader. But the thing that I have that these folks don't have is I've run the most number of races of anyone sitting here on the dais. And this was my 5th race, 4 in Pompton Lakes and 1 at the county level. I have never experienced the kind of negativity and vitriol in the local level. Never. And I know everyone made their gentle remarks, but quite frankly, it's not only Citizens United. It's Citizens United, which is the money part, compounded by social media. And the social media has a lot of good points to it. We get our messages out. We get record numbers of people to our pumpkin hunts. We get notices out when we have an emergency in town. there's lots of good about social media. But there are problems with social media, and the problems with social media are the immediacy. That when I grew up, I was taught that if there's something you were going to say and something you were going to do, you wrote it down and you stuck it in the drawer for 3 days, and then you came back and you looked at it. That doesn't happen anymore. The minute you see something on social media, there's an immediate response. And sometimes it's not a nice response. And sometimes it's inappropriate. And sometimes people should think before they post on social media. And unfortunately, our races here in town, we felt there were people who didn't understand that the senatorial race and the congressional race, that we were just pawns, we were just numbers, we were just billionaires spending their super PAC money. And some of them didn't understand that when they started attacking local folks, I'm not saying about disagreements on issues, I'm saying attacking by name, they were suddenly attacking their neighbors. And they were attacking people who they see in the coffee shop, who they see at the Cardinal, who they see at the fields, who they see on their streets. They were attacking folks and losing sight of the fact that November 7th would come. Excuse me, my mother needs to speak to me. She always forgets when council meetings are. She's 90 years old, so we'll give her a pass. And it was really, really distressing. And I felt that it really couldn't go unnoticed. And this is my plea. My plea is that I hope that that's an anomaly, that we don't do that again. And hopefully next year we'll have a mayoral race locally. But next year we're not going to get that super PAC money. There's not going to be any senatorial races. There's not going to be any congressional races. There's not going to be any gubernatorial races. We're just going to have assembly and senator, maybe senatorial. We're going to have local stuff. These billionaires aren't going to care about sending their money for those kind of issues. But I'm asking that this be an anomaly, that this be an exception. And we go back to being the Pompton Lakes that everyone talks about, that we're so proud of, and the community that helps each other, that works together. And there are a couple of little things we can do. One of them is we know that there was a debacle at the voting station, at many of the polling places. Why? Because we had a new piece of legislation that wasn't properly thought out or wasn't properly executed. We as a governing body, we as a community can reach out to our legislators and say, look, let's fix this. Let's make sure our races run much more smoothly. The mayor acknowledged we have lots more provisional ballots. We have lots more mail-in ballots. Why? Because there was a piece of legislation in Trenton that never should have been, in my opinion, never should have been implemented, and if it was implemented, it wasn't implemented properly. We can do something about that. We have a year to try to get our legislators to fix that, to make sure that our races run more smoothly. And on a much more simple note, we should press the county to start supplying us with I voted buttons, I voted stickers. Why aren't our people encouraged, those of us who came out, encouraged, and they can wear them to work, they can show them to their children, they can give them to their children. We're one of the few communities. In my class, I encourage my students to vote. When I say encourage, I give them extra credit. That's how you encourage. You either feed them or you give them extra credit. So I give them extra credit. And I encourage them, show me your buttons, show me pictures of you in the polling places, do things to show me that many towns, many communities all around all give out these I voted buttons. I would like to see Passaic County making sure we get the I voted buttons. So let's do some simple things and start acting as a community and hope that some of this negativity never comes back into our local races, and just in an effort to end on a high note, which was not a high presentation today, I brought my supply of I Love Pompton Lakes buttons. Liz has a supply in the office. I have a supply here for anyone who doesn't have one. Wear it proudly and remember that you not only love Pompton Lakes, but you love the people in Pompton Lakes. So, thank you very much for my...
Thank you
for my time.
for your tirade. I'm awful sorry, and we all know this beforehand of the connection you had in Pittsburgh. You know, that is an unfortunate thing, and I'm sure no one can feel the way you feel about the safety issues of that, so that's one thing. The second part of what you talked about, of course, we can't tell people how to act, and, you know, it goes on both sides of the line. You know, I would hope most people would have a little respect for the other person, and for the most part, we do in Pompton Lakes. There's a few individuals that probably do not, but that's social media in a nutshell. So you can't rely on what's said on social media all the time. I think for the most part, most of the residents in Pompton Lakes speak and do the right thing, and know how to act in public. Of course, there's going to be on both sides a couple of people that are probably doing the wrong thing, and we just, in my opinion, we just ignore them and move forward, because you're not going to change them.
Well, Mayor, I deliberately bought these papers so that I could see how the races were presented to the people of New Jersey. And when I read the way they were presented and realized that chances are most people have no idea why we suddenly have all this money for all these negative ads. And it's all because of this one Supreme Court case. And I felt it was time.
Right, but that's not changing. It's a case. It is what it is, and that's what it is.
But bear in mind, we don't want that here.
Right. Okay, so let's move forward. One other thing I forgot to mention, I need a closed session on litigation. Okay, who am I up to? Councilman Giaconetti, I'm gonna guess, 'cause someone told me that. Councilman Giaconetti.
That's a good guess.
That's a good
Thank you,
guess.
Mayor, yeah, I'm very good, proud of you.
Okay, Frank, make him laugh.
Well, Terry, again, I apologize you felt that way, and, you know, hopefully, I just wanted to tell you I love you. So, all right? So I'll give you a little love. All right, real quick, again, I was attended, all of us here attended the Pompton Lakes Education Foundation beefsteak. We were friends and neighbors, a lot of people out in the audience were there. It was a great event, raised some great money, $11,000. It was good food, I ate good, so, it was a good time. All right? So, it's always good when I can eat good, you know, so it was a good evening. So again, but, it was a good event, and it raised good money, for the school. My son's in 11th grade over there, my daughter graduated a couple years ago, and all the donations and all the gifts that they gave to them, all being used, and it's for a great cause. And again, kudos to them, wonderful job. Also, had the veteran service, I want to thank our one and only veteran up here, since Mike Simone left, is,
Bill Begg.
the guy that, Bill Begg, I'm sorry, the two of you guys, yes, Bill Begg, sorry, Bill. I always forget you. Bill and Eric, thank you both for your service, and, thank you, Bill, for being my captain. You'll always be my captain, all right? So thank you guys for your service, always, you know that. And thank you for representing Pompton Lakes. The other thing I had is what did I have? I wanted to tell everybody too, just before everybody came in here, I was talking to the mayor. If you notice, when you walked in here, the gallery over here, they're painting the hallway, and the mayor graciously said he's gonna fix the rest of the tiles. So I wanted to thank the mayor for that. Thank you very much, he's gonna make sure he gets that done. I appreciate
I said
it.
we would look in.
Oh, I'm sorry, we'll look into it. I just want to remind everybody, thank you, Mayor, I appreciate it. Again, always, very thoughtful, way the best mayor. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you so much, Ken. I understand you might be doing the work yourself, so that's good.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes. Hold on 1 minute, I'm sorry.
You got something?
The rabies clinic.
Oh, yes.
Thank you, Liz. And listen, thank you, Liz, and everybody, Kathy, and everybody with the election, and then all the poll workers. I know we had one poll worker here that, where'd she go?
It was a long day for those.
Oh, my goodness, what a long day, and I tell you, thank you, everybody, for all the, you know, you get paid with nothing. You want to make it $1.50 an hour, all the hours you put in there? I mean, you know, a lot of kudos to them. I mean, working hard and everything else, thank you to everybody. Real quick, free rabies clinic, November 10th, 2018 at the firehouse. Again, free rabies clinic. Can't get any better than that, it's free. All right, 1 to 3 p.m. at the firehouse, November 10th. All right? So, just wanted to give that, thank you, Liz.
Thank you for that good
Go ahead.
information. You done?
Yes.
Councilwoman Polidori.
Lighten up the mood, you know what I mean? I want to lighten up.
You have some motions, I don't know if you want to do them first or last?
I'll do them second.
Okay.
I'll do them last. So it's been an exciting few weeks, and now with the election behind us, it's time to start focusing again on the two things that I love to speak about, and that's our sense of community spirit in Pompton Lakes and the way we come together and collaborate to make such wonderful things happen. So that was evident again tonight in our veterans ceremony at the school. We are a town that's able to bring in our Boy Scout troops, our Girl Scout troops, our police department, our veterans, our mayor and council, our high school band, and fill a room really to honor the individuals that serve this country. So thank you. Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Eric. Thank you, everyone else. It was a lovely ceremony. I also attended the Pompton Lakes Education Foundation beefsteak. The food was good. We made a bread tower, a little one, but we made one.
I feel like I made the bread tower.
You did. No one else helped. We had a bunch of things going on with the Elks these past few weeks. We celebrated the 4th Sunday breakfast, in which I was actually able to serve almost 24 veterans that morning. And we also had, we brought back, which we haven't done in a long time, the soccer shoot. And we had already had to postpone it once because of the weather, and the weather was looking a little shaky again that morning, but we moved forward, and we were hoping to just get a few kids in so that we could say we did it, and we ended up having a great turnout, and the kids were really excited. We had a couple folks come from other towns to compete, so we will find out soon enough which of our children will move on to the next level. They go to districts, regionals, and then a state championship, which the winning family actually gets a paid vacation to Maryland for. So I hope it's someone from our town, but there are numerous other lodges that compete. So that was actually fun. I was happy to be a part of that. In light of all of the excitement that we've had in the past few weeks, it's now time to turn into the season where we have a lot of activities that are happy and that bring us together as a community. So I don't want to repeat the list of events that were already given from the rec committee, but we do have a lot going on with the library and the rec committee in the upcoming weeks. So I encourage all of you to check the websites. The library has a lot of story time sessions, read with dogs. They're very excited about their Holly House tour this year. We have the Breakfast with Santa, the Holiday Stroll, Toys for Tots. So the next month and a half or so are going to be very exciting around here, so I hope that everyone gets out to participate in all of those events. And speaking of the holiday stroll, I'm going to use that as an opportunity to segue into my motion.
Go ahead.
So I have 3.
Yes.
First, I'm going to read a motion to approve the request of the Pompton Lakes Chamber of Commerce to close Wanacue Avenue between Pompton Lakes and Lakeside Avenue between the hours of 3 p.m. and 8 p.m. on Saturday, December 1st, 2018, for the annual holiday stroll. The rain date is December 8th of 2018, and a request also to use Pompton Avenue, Ramapo Avenue, and Lakeside Avenue as a detour route. Stake County freeholders, Hunter Mark Agency, police, and fire departments have been notified.
I have a motion. Can I have a second? Second. Councilman Bennett, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Next.
I have a second motion to approve the request of on behalf of the Pompton Lakes Chamber of Commerce to hang a banner to promote the annual holiday stroll across Wanacue Ave from November 12th, 2018 to December 10th, 2018.
I have a motion. Can I have a second?
Second.
Councilman Devine, all in favor?
Aye.
Against?
And lastly, a motion to approve the request of on behalf of the Pompton Lakes Chamber of Commerce to cover the parking meters with holiday decorations from November 12th, 2018 to January 2nd, 2019, to provide limited 2-hour holiday free parking for the holiday season.
I have a motion.
Second.
Councilman Devine, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Is that what you have?
I will add one more thing real quick in response to covering of the holiday, for the holiday free parking. This is something I'm very passionate about, so I shop in town as often as I can. A lot of the services that I use are from professionals in town, our doctors, dentists, my children get their hair cut in town, we eat in town, I use the hardware store whenever I can. So as we go into the holiday season, I ask that if you can, if there's any shopping or anything you can do, please use the resources that we have right here.
That is very good information. I always remind everybody asks for every store to come into town. If you don't shop there, they won't stay. Just to follow up on the parking, the reason it's a limited 2-hour parking is we were having concerns with residents actually parking there for the day for free and then going to the city or to work or to wherever they go. So we had to limit it to 2-hour parking, and that's why it has been changed for that.
Yeah, please, yeah, highlight the fact that that's a change.
Yeah, that's a change.
That's a change that was recommended by the chamber, by the bid, to avoid people abusing the service.
And I just want to bring up something you brought up, the Toys for Tot train. We're always a big supplier of toys in town here, so please, there's plenty of drop-off spots. We have one here in Borough Hall. Every business has one. Please drop a couple toys in there for them. We like to fill up the train. We like to, of course, brag that we're the best town in putting the presents out there, so let's do that and get the toys out there. Councilman Bennett.
Thank you. I'll also like to thank Diane Gielock for putting together the Tricky Tray fundraiser. My children are recipients of those monies that are raised through technology and all the other grants that are provided to the future. Thank you again, Diane. Friday night on November 2nd through Saturday morning, we got a ton of rain in a very short amount of time. It was about over 2 inches. I was actually out there in that rain because I was waiting for my dad to get dropped off by the airport shuttle, and it came down pretty hard at one point. That being said, the gates did open, floodgates opened, and the next morning I drove by the Dunkin' Donuts, where I usually do, to see how the rivers were flowing, and I know in years past, you wouldn't even see any motion years ago. And I thought that was strange, like the gates be open, but you wouldn't see water flowing. Well, I'll tell you, Saturday morning, it was going. It was moving really, really quick. And I noted that we did not flood, which is huge. So I'd like to thank all the folks that are involved in the flood mitigation. You guys all know who you are. Thank you again.
Just going to jump in there. I agree with you 100%. They do a great job, and the coverage that they do and the work they spend on is unmarked by anybody else. But let's also keep in mind that the water levels are high right now in all areas. The Wanacue Reservoir is pretty full, and if that was to spill over, it doesn't mean flooding has gone away in town. I just want everyone to understand that. We should be vigilant on what we're doing. I'm sure Flood Advisory Board is going to be vigilant, but this is the next 2 months is going to be a little difficult right now, We just have to keep an eye on everything right now, just to be safe.
And the houses that were purchased and knocked down definitely helped.
Yes.
Helped with the flood storage.
Yes.
Lastly, I'd like to discuss the draft firearms ordinance that was sent out to the council earlier this week.
Yeah, I'll be happy to, sure. At the request of the mayor, I sent a copy of the proposal to all of the council, since we didn't have an opportunity to discuss it otherwise if we didn't discuss it this evening. The current status of the administrative code on firearms in the borough is that they're prohibited essentially, and there are some exceptions. The proposed firearms ordinance, which the mayor requested, will still keep a couple of exceptions, but it will prohibit the use of firearms and other weapons of all types within the boundaries of the borough. There is, of course, the continuing exception for police and other public officials who are required to and permitted to carry firearms, because when they have to use them, God forbid, they have to use them. The second exception that will exist if this ordinance is adopted is for bow and arrows, because there's been some concern about individuals in the borough who want to be able to do target practice with bows and arrows in their yards. Taking into consideration that most of the properties in the Pompton Lakes are still fairly small in size, the exception would be that anyone who has the proper licensing for bow and arrow, and there is a state licensing process for bow and arrow, but anyone who has the proper licensing for bow and arrow could do target practice in their yard, but only with rubber-tipped arrows. Metal-tipped arrows would be strictly prohibited. So except for those two exceptions, any other use of firearms within the boundaries of the borough, most of which are precluded now, would continue to be precluded, and other exceptions would have been eliminated.
So this is discussion portion right now. Ed, so if you have a concern
Yeah,
or question?
my only question would be, Joe, is state parkland, 140 acres in Pompton Lakes,
We don't control state park land.
that's one of,
They do whatever they want to do.
okay,
So what you're saying is we have no
We have
jurisdiction?
no jurisdiction.
that's why I asked the question.
So what we're trying to do is, this came up years ago, I don't know who was on council, probably not many of you, and we discussed it, and there were some residents at the time who came up who do practice archery or practice their skills even for hunting with archery. So this is why we're trying to put the exception in to allow bow and arrows with, without a metal tip on them, to practice and craft their art if that's what they want to do. Well, like the attorney said, though, there is a licensing involved. I actually have the license. You do have to go to a class, and as long as you have that, then you should be okay. If anybody has concerns about this now's the time to speak about it before it goes to readings.
Go ahead, Terry.
Oh, I guess I'm not sure. I understand in terms of the bow and arrow that the change is the rubber tip. Is that correct?
More than that, yeah.
Oh, there's more than
It's
that.
It's more than that, but it does change to rubber tips for practice. But it will essentially eliminate the use of metal tipped arrows inside the burrow, just like it eliminates the use of lead bullets inside the, inside the burrow.
I'm not sure I quite understand I know the exception to the carrying firearms is clearly those, the police and other, but to what extent has that changed? I'm not sure I understand the change.
Well, okay, then let's go over what the status is now. Right now, the status is that firing of a firearm, which includes archery, which includes bows and arrows, is prohibited in the borough of Pompton Lakes with some exceptions. One of the exceptions is licensed hunters. That's now eliminated. There would be no hunting in the borough. One of the exceptions is clubs that are permitted for firing weapons of any type. That exception would disappear. Of course, we don't have any, so it doesn't affect anybody at this time, but that exception would disappear. So the only exceptions that would be left are the two that I just read you. One of them has always existed, that's the police, and the other is a new exception for target practice with rubber-tipped arrows.
Okay, thank you.
There's an absolute prohibition, no matter what, there's an absolute prohibition against the firing of any type of firearm, including bows and arrows, even right now, without this ordinance, on any piece of property in the borough of Pompton Lakes that's either owned, operated, or leased by the borough itself. In other words, borough property. There is no exception for that, and there has never been. But there has been an exception on other pieces of property, as I mentioned to you, clubs and hunting, but those would be gone. The only two that would exist are the police and the target practice with rubber-tipped arrows.
Would you refresh my memory? Is there any reference to size of property, or
No, there is
no
no
longer have
reference to
that?
the size of the property. Now,
Okay.
the firing of firearms is governed in distance by state statute,
Okay.
but that deals more with firing firearms within certain distances of state highways, roads, streets, things of that nature.
Thank you.
got it,
Because right now, I guess you can't fire a bow and arrow as of now, so you want to bring that back?
No, right now,
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Right now, you can't fire a bow and arrow unless you meet one of the exceptions. And
Which is?
one of the exceptions is hunting.
Right.
One of the exceptions is belonging to a club that is permitted by the municipality for
Right.
the, target practice with bows and arrows. One is the police exception. Except the police exception, the others are being eliminated, but a new exception is being added to permit target practice with archery as long as the arrows are rubber tipped.
So we're still going to keep the hunting club and police?
There will be no hunting and no club shooting of firearms.
Right, so you're taking that exception out and you're going to add the,
The right to target practice with bows and arrows,
but with a plastic tip?
with rubber tip. arrows, right?
Rubber tip arrows.
That's what I'm...
Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry, you got more, Frank?
No, I'm just saying, I just have a little concern with that, with, like I said, taking that out,
Okay.
with the hunting and everything else like that, you know, a club, we wanted a club to come in maybe, I mean, you know, I don't know. I mean, you can add the other one, I mean, I don't know about
Could
the,
they add, at that point, if the club was coming in, they could ask for a variance on that, could they not, or not?
Well, there's never been, in my knowledge, and I've been
No.
around here since 1990, there's never been a
Right.
club.
right,
So nobody's ever asked for the permit.
right.
The permitting process has been removed from the ordinance, so it's not contemplated, if that's...
Well, as I'm saying, it hasn't been 1990, I don't know, why taking it out now? Couldn't you leave and just add the arrows too, and leave what you have and just put, you
The
know?
reason to take it out is to
Yeah.
clean up, there would no longer be the use of anything that a club would use. I mean, they still couldn't use metal tip arrows, for instance.
Right,
So why have the permitting process in there at all if you can't fire the weapon? I mean, imagine this, would you
Yeah.
want an open range somewhere in Pompton Lakes where you could use rifles? Or even handguns? I think the answer is you probably don't want that.
well, like I said, you can have a place built, like an indoor range or something, you can have an
I'm
archery.
saying about indoor
Yeah.
ranges.
Indoors
That
out.
would be an entirely different
It's outside
process.
only.
Yeah, through the zoning ordinance.
Right,
There's a
They'd
question.
have to make a variance.
There's a question down there.
In the old ordinance, wasn't there a distance that you could fire the firearm?
No, there's no distances mentioned in the old ordinance.
I think the one I...
Not the one, no, there's no distances mentioned in the old ordinance.
Which would prohibit,
Bill, I'm looking at it, there are no distances mentioned in the old ordinance. Now, there are distances mentioned in the state
State
statute,
statute,
but there's nothing in the
from a
ordinance.
residence.
but that's state statute, we can't control state statute.
You're welcome to look at it, that's the current status of the code.
Eric, did you still have a quick question?
No, mine was related specifically for indoor gun ranges.
Heck, you have any concerns, questions? No questions. Jen, any questions, concerns?
I need to understand more, I think. I'm not ready
So,
to answer that right
let me
now.
help you if I can. So right now, there's state statute and there's Pompton Lake statute, two separate statutes. They don't intertwine with each other. Okay, state makes their own rules on their property. Okay, so we can't control what goes on there. We can control what goes on in Pompton Lakes only. So what we're basically saying in Pompton Lakes, which is standard anyway, you can't fire a firearm in Pompton Lakes. Now, on state property, there might be some distances, and there's very few properties that meet the criteria, but there are some properties that would meet that criteria. So they could theoretically shoot or hunt or use bow and arrow or a gun in those properties. If we pass this ordinance, there would be no firing of any type of firearm in Pompton Lakes. So therefore, that ordinance goes away. You can't do it anymore, because you can't fire a firearm anymore,
Even on the state property.
even on state property, correct, if it's in Pompton Lakes. We have that ordinance in place now anyway. In Pompton Lakes, you can't fire except state property. So right now in Pompton Lakes, you can't fire a firearm anyway,
With some exceptions.
with some exceptions.
Being state property.
State property is one of the exceptions.
So we're actually looking to restrict that even further.
Yes.
And the state can do, the state could say tomorrow that they want to have a deer hunt in Pompton Lakes. And they could set it up the way they usually do and bring in professionals, and that we couldn't stop them from having their deer hunt. But that's the state, they're a superior public entity to the
And
borough.
I would hope if the state was going to address it, they would address it statewide. It wouldn't be Pompton Lakes, but, yes. Just something? No.
So, can I have some further clarification
Sure.
on hunting clubs, shooting clubs? So give me the difference between like gun for hire and Thunder Mountain. There would be a relaxation in that restriction for an indoor range and indoor...
No,
That's not in this. Indoor is not inside.
right, that has nothing to do with this. If somebody was to make an application for an indoor range, it would have to go to the zoning board.
Right, goes to
And
the
they'd have to
zoning
get
board.
variances, because right now it wouldn't be permitted under our zoning laws. So entirely different.
They could get a variance within our zoning or planning to make that happen if that's what the boards decided they wanted. So if an indoor range wanted to come in for any type of thing, they could ask for that in town. That's not our decision, that would be the board's decision. They would make that decision. So it's a variance, they're asking for a variance.
well, like I said, I mean, Joe brought up a good point, maybe you're gonna have the state come in, they're gonna finally do something with the deer population, and they're gonna say, well, listen, you can only hunt on state land, but when you come over to cross into the borough of Pompton Lakes land, we got the ordinance, you can't shoot and hunt over here. I don't know. To me, I don't know why we really need it, until we have to need it. I mean, if we're gonna look maybe sometime in the future to do hunting, whether it's now, tomorrow, or next year, or 5 years from now.
This is not about hunting per se.
Well, I'm just saying, I'm just bringing that up as far as that, or whatever. I mean, it hasn't been a problem now. I mean, like I said, to me, unless it starts becoming a problem, I would say let's address it. Then, I have no problem, but until then, I don't really see the need for it. Like I said, just leave it as it is, and like I said, if something comes along, we have a problem, by all means, we can tackle it then.
All right, well, what's gonna happen is, so it'll go to first reading,
Yeah.
then it'll go to second reading, and then you guys will vote on it. So, we have time to still discuss and talk and,
All right.
so, at that point, it goes to first and second reading, and then we will vote on it. I only break a tie, I don't vote, so
Yeah.
it's up to you guys to make that decision.
All right.
So, do some more research, ask some more questions to Joe.
Yeah, no,
or whatever
definitely.
you need to do, and we can address that,
Definitely get some more clarification, yeah, no,
okay?
yeah.
All right, Councilman Bennett, you done?
I'm done.
Councilman Devine? No, I'm sorry, Councilman Bay.
Bill, you're up.
I received the Pompton Lakes Fire Department report for the month of October 2018 from Fire Inspector Al Bruno. He reports there were 22 calls for the month and a total of 256 calls so far for the year. I attended the Pompton Lakes Prevention Coalition meeting on October 25th. Coordinator Ashley Lusick reported that Knockout Opiate Abuse Day went very well with the HAWAC Club at the high school distributing opiate prevention flyers to stores in town. And on Saturday, October 6th, they attended the Pompton Lakes football game, distributed anti-drug information at that game. The coalition with the Pompton Lakes Police Department participated in Prescription Drug Take-Back Day. That was on Saturday, October 27th. October 23rd to October 31st is Red Ribbon Week 2018, and students at the high school are participating by reading a fact each day that related to substance use prevention at morning announcements. Finally, Mrs. Lusick advised that the coalition will be presenting a program at the Pompton Lakes High School Library titled Vaping, a new generation of nicotine addiction. The program will be held Thursday, November 29th at 7 p.m. I attended the Education Foundation beefsteak, as everybody else has announced tonight. The event was a sellout, and the coalition's been very good to the Board of Education. Quite frankly, they've donated money for many of the Chrome books that are in the school system from grades 3 all the way through 12. And we're responsible for the Columbia Bank's recent donation of $20,000 for the second grade laboratory. Mrs. Gellick's been very good and was recognized by Rotary this past month.
She was.
And her and her committee doing a very nice job. Attended the Veterans Service tonight. It was very good. The Marine Corps League was there, and as always, they're there for us. Many of the veterans in town were there. The school band did a nice job.
They did.
And it's always a good warming ceremony that we have. And that's about it.
Thank you. Councilman Devine?
Thank you, Mayor. First, I would like to start by recognizing my running mates for the past few months and our opponents on the other side of the aisle. Going back to Terry's points, what I always told people, and I try to keep in mind myself, is that we're all running towards November 6th. but today is November 7th. There's a day after Election Day. And, you know, and I've told people that, you know, while Randy and Pete and Millie may be my political opponents, we're not enemies. Randy, I'm probably going to see you tomorrow at the Open Space Committee. I mean, you know, there's times that we run against each other, we defer on issues, and there's times that we work together towards the common good of Pompton Lakes. I think there's some people that, whether by inexperience or getting caught up in the national elections and things like that, lost that perspective. But, you know, today and the days forward is a time, I think, to take a step back and get that perspective back. You know, we have quite a while before we have to start working, you know, against each other in various realms again. So, you know, while the election was exciting, and I'm also glad it's very much over, and I look forward to, you know, continuing to do the kind of work at least for the next few months. I know that we're waiting for the final results, but you know, the job doesn't quit. You know, doesn't stop regardless. To that point of long time periods and long days, I wanted to recognize Liz and Kathy, who you know, worked the entire day on a day that everybody else in the borough had off. And it wasn't just while we were at our desks. It wasn't like that at all. I happened to be in because I had to sign invoices for tonight's meeting. You know, they were there answering questions, dealing with a lot of the issues created by the provisional ballots, executive order or legislative statute, whatever it was. That in my opinion was a giant mess to fix a problem that didn't exist and created a problem that didn't used to be there. Hopefully, speaking of gaining perspective, you know, people learn some lessons and fix that for the next election. But in any case, you know, it's not easy work because they're coming in and people expect them to have the answers. But you know, it didn't matter who was coming in, what their concern was, and you know, Liz and Kathy were working hard to satisfy that question. So I just wanted to thank them both for their work yesterday. The other thing, taking a step back, speaking of long days, was last Wednesday was Halloween, and you know, had the Halloween parades and the kids got out of school, and you know, they did the downtown trick-or-treating, like, you know, which is what we do in Pompton Lakes, which is a, you know, phenomenal tradition. And you know, I was running around going to different things, and at one point we were coming back, and 6:30 at night at Wanacue Avenue, it's, you know, basically dark at that point, and the crossing guards are still out there moving people across safely on Wanacue Avenue. A lot less kids, but the crossing guards were there. I mean, that was a long day for them, so I just wanted to take a moment to recognize their efforts on that day. You know, there's not a whole lot to cover that hasn't already been covered. The elk soccer shoe, I brought Daniela. You know, she had a lot of fun. She was a little muddy from soccer before, but she still managed to have a little bit of fun. So we'll see if she makes the 2-year-old cut.
You might be going
There's a
Maryland.
2-year-old cut. There's a 2-year-old cut. What's great about it is that she's 3.5 now, more or less. But she was 2 in January 1st, 2018. So she fell into the 2-year-old. It was. She was having a good time though.
I don't think she felt the
In
pressure.
windy can I don't. She was pretty happy when she got him in, and didn't care that she did not. You know, so you know, I wanted to, you know, thank Jen and the Elks for having that event. That was a great event. I attended the beefsteak dinner. Again, you know, I've said it before. What the Educational Foundation is doing is phenomenal work to really supplement what our school districts are doing. And if you've gone to a Board of Education meeting and seen how they're leveraging technology and knowledge these days, bringing both of what the PLF is doing and what the school board is advancing through the curriculum, it is phenomenal. It's really, really exciting stuff. Last thing, you know, thank you for having the Veterans Day. Obviously, it means a lot. You know, I'm not going to speak for Bill, but I know it means a lot for Bill too. I just did. You know, but you know, in a time period where, you know, we're very divisive. Again, you know, it's our community that takes the time to recognize people that have given much more from themselves. And then last things, because we're going to be about I guess, a 2 or 3 week time period before the council meeting, November 18th, which is a Sunday, and Friday, November 23rd, which is Black Friday. The Trails Maintenance Committee is doing daffodil bulb plantings along the Morse Canal Greenway. That's that path along River Edge Drive and the Ramapo River. Again, we have 1,000 bulbs procured by Councilman Vennon, so it's hopefully many hands make light work on what should be a fun day. And that concludes my report, Mayor.
I think those bulbs are starting to bloom in the the sooner we get them in, the
Brighten up
brighter.
the office a little bit. Yeah, turn that front upside down, brighten your office, yeah.
Administrator's report.
Since we have a closed session, I will truncate my report, Mayor. There was an NJDOT grant out there for local freight impact funding, and so maybe a possibility with some of our county roads may be able to get some funding, but the chief reviewed it with the engineer, and it's really more for inner cities that have a lot of impact also to freight traffic to try maybe resurface roads and so forth and so on. There's also a state sustainable Jersey grant, Roots for Rivers Reforestation grant. We're going to pass them this year. We looked at it, talked to Councilman Lyon, I talked to Sue Scavone. It's a very intensive grant. More importantly, the Safety Commission has to be involved in that. Is trying to finish up the CSIP part of their grant process, so that's something we'll keep going forward to look at. One thing we should know too, we do a lot of reforestation planning anyway. When we did all of our work along the Paquonic a number of years ago, we planted stuff along Paquonic that took hold and Riverdale's didn't. So we've done a lot of, right around too, when we armored those banks, we did a lot of planting there. So we've done a lot of that, but this grant is a good grant, but it's labor intensive and on all forms, because now it pays for the trees, it doesn't pay for the installation of the trees. Where the CSIP grant pays for everything. So it's a lot of things you gotta look at, but
Randy,
we're gonna be holding off until we have that CSIP grant finalized.
I had trees on my brain, so I called him Randy for a second. Kevin, the only thing I would want to keep in mind is, as we're potentially looking at the Willow Field improvements, there is that area that we're talking about vacating for the T-ball fields.
Yeah.
That's something that obviously we'll look at various grant opportunities. That might be a way to fund that replanting in that area, but next year, because hopefully that's a recurring grant, so.
We received the Camorras Pompton Lakes site, the third water progress report. They provide the DEP. It's really good reading. Explains a lot what goes on and what they're doing on all our projects with Camorras. Last week we received the AAA Excellence Award. If you look at the list, we're one of 11 towns. There's a whole bunch of towns involved in this state in Bergen County area. We were 11 that received the actual Award of Excellence, the highest award you can get. And also, I have a little more recycling update. Starting next year, we're going to have some cost us to recycle. The markets are shot. As you can follow in the papers, China has pretty much cut off our paper deliveries. Our plastic is pretty much in a real tough situation. The commodities exchange in New York have these materials at negative dollars, not only no positive dollars. The good thing is that even with spend maybe a couple $1,000, it's not going to be tons of money, a couple $1,000 a year, it's cheaper to still recycle than to pay the tip at $54 a ton. So there is still a benefit to that. And eventually, these markets come back. I remember many years ago, I was in Wanacue, I was on a solid waste advisory committee for State County, and John DeZero was telling us how China did the same thing, and paper was getting sent back by the container loads. It came around. It's just a matter of time, the economy changes on that end up to the commodities market. So I just want everybody to understand that. As you watch our budget, you see we get the dollars coming in as revenue. I mean, it's gone from 30,000 last year to 10,000 this year. It's going to be a negative going forward. But again, it's not going to be a major hit, but something to realize that's no longer going to be that revenue on the recycling side. But still save us money compared to tipping.
And while you're talking about that, we should mention we got new compressors and new machines down at the recycling center.
Yeah.
So the other ones are on their way out. Any questions for the administrator? One thing I forgot to mention in my report, the administrator reminded me, Council President Riker, myself, the attorney, and the administrator met with the radio station. We are pretty close to an agreement with bringing in a radio station here in the Pompton back to where we were. It will be a a local flavored radio station like it was before, temporarily working out of another area and hopefully eventually working out of Pompton Lakes. That's good news. I mean, we get to make some money off the radio station because we're going to sell them the property, and then they keep the local flavor that we're asking. So those are all good things for us. Any questions about the radio station? Okay. Motion to open the meeting for public comments.
So moved.
Councilman Delisle.
Second.
Councilman Giacoletto. All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Anyone from the public like to address? Please step up.
Good evening, my name is Walter Boudreau from One Iron Forge Village. I want to say it was very nice of the town to have the Veterans event. Unfortunately, I didn't make it. I hope I can make it next year, be aware of it. Councilwoman Riker, I agree with you on there's too much money in the elections, no question about it. A lot of incivility, brings about a lot of incivility, ill behavior. It's too prevalent. You know, on another side of that also, another point about that, which has always bothered me the last year and a half. Sometimes I'll watch the History Channel, and they'll have something on the emergence of the Nazi Party and Hitler. And they'll show clips of his thugs called the Brown Shirts. And anybody who disagreed with Hitler, the Brown Shirts would beat them up and burn their buildings down. Now, I've seen a lot of that on TV the last year and a half. I've seen buildings burnt. I've seen universities burnt. I've seen people beaten up and attacked for just walking down the street. So, the Brown Shirts are here. They're here. We have to be careful. And on another note, a light note,
Okay.
I hope the council, well, not really a light note, but a little bit lighter, I hope the council will pass some kind of an ordinance to make it illegal to sell recreational marijuana.
We are working on that right now.
Good, because you don't want to invite the devil to dinner
I agree with you.
or into your house.
We are working on that right now.
No good. No good at all. You can waste a lot of minds, young minds. And have a great night.
Thank you. You know, I kind of look at the other side of the conversation a little bit. I believe in the people in Pompton Lakes. I believe the people in Pompton Lakes, for the most part, do the right thing.
Yes.
And those brown shirts you're talking about, I would hope would not influence what we do here in Pompton Lakes.
I hope not.
You know, I believe in the
Where-
community, and I believe in what's going on here. And that's the way I got to look
I
at it, so.
didn't mean here in Pompton.
No, I
Lakes.
understand.
just mean what I see out there.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else from the public like to address? Finn?
Randy Hinton, 443 Montclair Ave. So much to talk about. The vacated T-ball fields, you know, when we do vacate them, Shade Tree would have no problem with the tree planting that we do to put trees in there instead of having to go through grants. We're always looking for spots.
I don't know if you'd have enough trees, though, to do that.
Those T-ball fields?
There's a lot of trees there.
The T-ball fields?
All three of them.
They're tiny. You know, it isn't like you have to fill them up with trees, because trees eventually get big, they'll fill it. Mr. Merrill had a position, he's now retired, but he had a position of checking on recycling throughout town.
Yes.
It was an extra paid position that he had.
There was a
Someone-
stipend, yes.
Yeah,
Stipend, yes.
somebody fill that position, or?
We, not yet, but we will be looking into how we're gonna do that.
Okay, so it hasn't been filled yet, right?
Not at this second, no.
No, okay. The Veteran Service, it was beautiful. I was able to make it there. Very nice presentations and the band and everything. We used to have pictures of veterans lining the hallway.
Yeah.
Why aren't they ever back again?
We're redoing the hallways, and we're going to just think about how we're going to do it. At one point, there was a talk about putting a monitor in that we could put everything back through on that.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, you wouldn't want to hang the pictures back up if the ceiling tiles fell and knocked them down, so.
Well,
Once we get the tiles fixed.
I understand what we're doing ceiling tiles.
Then, we can, put those pictures back
Yeah,
up.
we're looking at a monitor. We used to have the mayors up and the veterans and all those.
Yeah. And, I appreciate, and I agree 110% with Council President Riker's, talk about negativity in our past election that we just had. Yes, Facebook, sometimes people do not understand and they get right on there and put something that's hurtful, and I don't agree with it, and I think all of us don't agree with that. It's unfortunate sometimes that happens. It could happen either side, it doesn't, you know. And like Eric said, I agree with Eric also, that when the election is over, we all do work together. I will be at open space meeting, and we don't agree all the time, but we're all trying to work for Pompton Lakes, and that's our main goal. So, what came up to justify this ordinance you're talking about, and what are you looking to achieve? I know that most of you don't shoot bows and arrows, and when you are practicing with a bow, you use a target tip, and the target tip is a metal tip. It's weighted either 100 grains, 125 grains, or more, and it's set up with your bow and your arrow for that practice. I've never in my life heard of shooting rubber tips on arrows. You know, this is not like a little kid's thing that you buy when you were 8 years
No,
old.
they make a hard rubber tip that will go.
Not at 100 grains or 125 grains.
They do, because I use it.
Oh, you do use it?
I do.
Oh, okay. What came up to justify this order?
That's a good point, and I'm glad you asked that. Actually, it has a lot to do with your talking of hunting. I've had a lot of residents come up with big concerns.
No, I hate to stop you.
No, hold on, let me finish.
Let me stop you.
I can bring them up by name. You want names?
No, I can show you the petition I have with
I
people with,
understand
listen,
that. But it
with
has to go
people
both
with
sides.
problems that they're having with the deer. I never said hunting. I said we need to have a discussion with the growing deer population.
I agree.
And when I brought in the 2 PhD professors to speak on the problem, you never even showed up to even listen to what the professionals
You
had
know
to
my
say.
stance on it. I don't have to show up, you know my stance on it.
Well, I mean, it's an education, Mr.
And I might
I'm
have
trying
something
to
on that
make
meeting.
you understand that.
I understand. So let me
A little
finish. You asked me
further
where
go.
this came from. Let me answer the question then.
Okay, I will.
I've had residents show concern to me,
Okay.
as the mayor, that they're concerned that their children could be in an area where something could hit them, an arrow, a bullet, whatever it is. So,
Correct.
I brought to my attorney's attention this, I said, how do we address this? This is the ordinance that we came up with. Now, from past discussion, and I think you were part of that, I don't know how many council people were actually part of it, back then the concern was bow and arrows, a lot of people have concern with bow and arrows, so this was to help with that side of it a little bit, so it's changed a little bit. But at the end of the day, there's concern of residents, not for hunting, just in general, of weaponry in town, that someone shoots legally or illegally, that might hurt their children. So I have to address that.
Well, of course, no, I understand that 100%.
So that's
And
what,
that's your issue to address that.
yes,
But we have a growing problem in town,
we do.
and there has to be a way to solve that problem. A discussion has to be initiated on how to solve that problem. So you don't want to put the cart before the horse. You want to be able to, if you have come to a conclusion as to how to address the problem, you want to be able to address the problem. And if you're putting the cart in front of the horse with this possible ordinance that you're coming up with, you may not have a way to address the problem.
But I think they're tying both things together. They're independent of each other. There's a problem with the deer, and then there's a problem with parents' concerns of safety of their children.
Correct.
With weaponry.
Correct.
There's two different things here.
I understand.
So-
I have no problem understanding.
Right, so that part of it is the concern that I'm dealing with. I'm not dealing with the hunting part of this or how we'll fix the deer situation. My stance on that, and I've spoken now, I've called DEP and Fish and Wildlife on it, and said, where is your stance on this?
Right.
They said, we're still looking into the program, but they agree. They said it has to be a statewide program. They understand it can't be a spot cleaning, as they said. And
Right.
they are trying to address it in some way. They just don't know how they're going to do that yet and who's going to pay for it. That's the big deal.
Meanwhile, deer keep making little deer.
and so do the bear and raccoon and the skunks and the fox and everything else.
From the information that I've researched, the danger to children from age 5 to age 19, the number one injury and death of children are motor vehicle accidents.
That's probably right, true. I would agree.
It's motor vehicle accidents. Yep. And the dead deer that you see on the road, they did not walk up there and decide to die of a heart attack right there on the side.
I don't think that's probably
No, they
very
didn't
true.
do that.
Yes.
They were all motor vehicle accidents, which are far more dangerous to children than an arrow. There are no statistics.
But again, you're tying
There-
two
I'll let
together.
me finish. I'll let you finish. There are no statistics on children as much, if there's any at all, being shot with arrows.
But you're tying, how do you know every accident was tied to a deer? You don't know that.
Well, how did that deer die then? Did it die of...
But how do you know it involved an accident where the car didn't keep driving and nothing happened?
And it hit it and nothing? It didn't have
killed the
any damage
deer.
at all, or-
It killed the deer, but the car, I know many people said, I hit a deer and just kept on moving. Now, look, I'm not arguing with you about the deer population. We have a deer, we're not the only town that has a deer population. We have, just like every other town, a deer problem.
Sure.
And it has to be addressed at some state level, it has to be.
Correct.
I am all for, if they came up with a plan, I would back that plan.
Right.
But right now, they're quiet about it, and they don't want to talk about it. So they don't want to put a plan out, then I gotta go respect that.
Correct. But you don't want to put the cart in front of the horse either.
Okay, that's your opinion.
Well, no, but that's true. You don't want to eliminate your ability to solve the problem by doing this
We can
work.
always change things if we don't like it.
Also, I've had plenty of conversations with Borough Attorney Ragnow about these ordinances. And there's a ordinance on the books about illegal to feed deer or feed wildlife.
Well,
in something like-
there's a question about what considered deer and wildlife, yes.
Well, deer are wildlife.
Well, you want to explain that?
Deer are wildlife.
Deer are wildlife, yes, but
Thank you.
the other, like ducks, for example,
Well, they're wildlife also. Ducks are wildlife.
geese,
They're all wildlife. You're not allowed to feed
let's
wildlife.
go with wildlife, okay,
It's in the ordinance, you're not allowed to feed wildlife.
that is correct.
But also in the ordinance, it says baiting is legal.
That's because hunting is legal right now.
Correct.
Baiting for hunting purposes, so long as hunting is legal, would be legal, but not on municipal property elsewhere. There's no exception on municipal property.
Doesn't specify municipal property.
Randy, I've spent enough time on it. My opinion isn't gonna change. It's not permitted on municipal property.
Baiting.
Baiting, anything, no shooting, no hunting, no baiting. If you can't hunt, you don't need to bait, so all of that.
Well, then why would you need to change this ordinance like Frank said?
Because this has nothing to do with municipal property. It's already prohibited on municipal property. I was asked to draft an ordinance that prevented the firing of firearms in the boundaries of this very small, densely packed community, except for certain exceptions, and those are the two exceptions I was asked to put in.
Well, I thank you for bringing this up after the election, because now I have so much more time. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I'm glad I'm keeping you busy.
You just gave me a lot of work.
See, that's good. You're retired, you have time.
So are you.
So we both have time. Anyone else from the public like to address? Seeing no one, can I have a motion to close public session? Councilman Bennett? Councilman Giaconetti, all in favor? Aye. Against? Privilege of the floor, anybody have privilege of the floor?
I did real quick, I
Yes.
forgot to mention, the one thing that did go through with the tax vote was the,
Oh, yes.
forgot all about that, it was a big thing, I don't know if you,
Go ahead, Eric.
to thank the,
Well,
Mark,
I mean, thing that we've been discussing, we had the public referendum regarding, basically adding additional flexibility to the open space ordinance, trust fund rather. It passed, I think, by a margin of basically 2-1, so I don't know when that actually takes effect.
If the ordinance...
Or the referendum.
The ordinance is already done, so it should take effect.
Okay, so that's,
So once it's, everything's certified, I think they'll probably take effect then.
okay.
Once the official, everything is certified, yeah.
So we don't
Take
have to
effect.
pass any kind of subsequent ordinance?
We don't have to in any way acknowledge the referendum.
Okay.
Yeah, you can do it.
You done?
I'm done.
Historic Commission is having a walking tour at Pompton Reformed Church, Saturday, November 24th, starting at 10 a.m.
Okay, thank you.
All right,
Anybody
thank
else?
you. Nope.
Motion adjourned into closed session.
So moved.
Okay, thank you, everyone, for coming. Mike's off. Council President Wright, Councilman
Okay, I'm going back to
Okay,
the report.
we're recording.
Just a minute. What do you have to go on?
No, you don't.
No, you don't, just...
In closed
I
session,
just figured I had to turn it off.
wait, okay. In closed session, we discussed,
Negotiations.
not negotiate, contract litigation. Okay, that's it. Motion to adjourn. Councilman McNamara? Councilman Devine? Thank you. We are good.
You're like, why not? What? You're like, why not? I didn't say it.
We've been a little busy, Joe.
No problem. You said it.
So,